Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Parent Cafe Live, through Alliance for Youth here in Great Falls, Montana. So, we like to talk about things that affect us as parents, and being that I am a parent, a lot of these are driven by what's going on in my life. So, I don't know everything, but I do look and investigate things that are relevant to what's going on in my life. If you have questions or anything, I have a 4-year-old. If you have stuff with a different age, I do have some knowledge. I can find out things. I have lots of people I know. Please ask me the questions. I am not afraid to investigate for you. So, when we are building relationships with kids, it's not just our relationship with our kids we're worried about, right? Um, it's often like our teachers and caregivers that it really affects the way our kids behave. So, through COVID-19 and having my child removed from his daycare, he'd been having some behavior problems and some challenges with his teachers. And I'm seeing where those stem from. More so having more time and trying to do the teaching with him. He has a difficult personality. It's very oppositional. It's very emotional. It's strong-willed. He's really smart, but he's 4 and only has this little wheelhouse of knowledge, and he is convinced that that's the whole world in his bucket. And there's just a lot of things, and watching our reactions as we get frustrated, seeing how that affects our relationship, and it makes the behaviors continue. It gives me more insight onto what we were working with his teachers before. And I don't feel so bad because there's people educated in early childhood that were struggling with him. So I really liked researching this building positive relationships. It resonated with me. And it's really practical right now for me to be able to use some of these tools. So I hope that they help you as well. So, building positive relationships. And so I'm going to talk about this in conjunction with like how it helps us as a parent, but advocating for our kids with other adults. So when they are working with teachers or camp people or daycare providers or anything like that. So I saw some struggling happening with my child and his teachers, which gets replicated here. And he listens less and less. The less he likes you, the less he trusts you, the more frustrated he gets with you. And a lot of that, you really have to build a strong relationship to where he wants to do things for you. And it's not perfect. It doesn't work every time, but I'm seeing what works well and what doesn't. And, especially in teaching moments. So he'd rather play than learn. And he likes to learn through play and not feel like a task or a chore. So which is, every little kid. And he doesn't have a whole lot of like positive feedback when you try to get him to do something, which can be really, really frustrating as the person trying to get. And so then we return that with a negative reaction, an emotional response, which does not help our cause at all. So when we're doing this, you might have a great relationship with your kid and they're experiencing this with their teachers. So teachers, as they learn and grow and develop their profession, they learn some classroom management tools, but your kid is unique and they might not have ever experienced anything like that. So we are the experts on our kids, even if it doesn't always feel that way. So it's important to know and be able to advise. So I have a coworker who her youngest was just kind of different and challenging and unique. And they wrote an instruction manual to him. Not so much an instruction manual, but more of like, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. And if you want to have a successful year, these are the things you should take into account. So that's really good because part of building a good relationship with a kid is having a strong understanding of all of those things, their preferences, their culture, their personality, their interests. So I hope all this ties in and it helps you build a relationship with your child that is stronger and beneficial to you, and help you advocate for him to make, or her to make, relationships with other adults in their life. So it's an essential task and a component of good teaching. So for our caretakers and teachers, and when we're at home schooling our kids, and we have lots of teachable moments when they're fun, which we tend to do more of as parents, to build like life skills. It seems less like learning and teaching, but they respond really well. So finding what their preference learning style is going to be huge. And it can't always be done that way for certain lessons in a classroom, but if you're having trouble getting through or teaching a specific subject, it might be good to know their learning style and why that is. So building all of this groundwork, they switch their teachers every year. So the more we're engaged with their schooling and stuff is going to be really important. And I feel like a lot of us have gotten a different perspective during COVID-19. And it's a good time to kind of evaluate where we're at as parents and our partners with our teachers, right? So I have my notes, and I don't want to miss anything. So a big thing, adults must invest time and attention. So if we're not doing the work too, it's why would a kid, show up and do the work with you and want to build that relationship? So we do know more. We should have a little bit better understanding of our emotions and our responses, and have a little bit more self-control than our children do, right? So if we expect them to respond, not have negative feedback, we need to not be doing that. Their kids, they're going to have some, even the best kids, can have tantrums and they have things like that. And some of our kids are just more prone to that. And, later on in life, maybe they won't have as many problems because they're strong-willed and make decisions and they're great leaders, right? So we just have to work with what they are and who they are, and help them use that in the best way they can. So relationship building promotes protective factors. So as we're building that, it increases all those protective factors to make them healthier adults. Relationship building grows adults' influence you have over the children. So the stronger relationship you have, you're more likely to have positive feedback, and that looks like a lot of different things. And your kids are more willing to follow your role modeling. And with that, you get to decrease your challenging behaviors and increase your positive behavior. So that's always a win. Again, some kids are just exhausting and challenging, right? So that just means more work for us, which we need to do. We are their teachers. We are guiding them to be positive, productive adults in society, and they need some time. They don't know any better. So if they're seeing all the negative feedback that we're giving because we're stressed and anxious and having a hard time with them, they're going to reciprocate that, and that's how they're going to learn to deal with things. I have to watch this all the time. So when I'm saying these things, there's no judgment. I have to reevaluate myself every day, and it's way easier when you're looking at the outside. So my husband has to check me a lot. I have to check him a lot. And co-parenting, is easier because you have somebody else to help you. If you're a single parent, make sure you have like a mom group or a strong support system that, you have people in your corner and can help you, and they're on your side, and they're not judging you. They just want to help you be a good parent. They want you to be successful and have a good relationship with your kid. Because we're human too, right? So it's all a learning process. I hear all the time, like, I grew up with my kid. We grew up together. And it's so true, because we didn't have this role before, right? So it's like a whole new challenge, a whole new learning curve, right? Go for it. Get in there and figure it out. And, the more honest we are with our kids, about our vulnerabilities, I think helps. I mean, you want to do that age appropriately, but, there's always, if you have a moment where you wish you could take it back, you can explain it, apologize, and do a redo. You have to work at being, an adult in a child's life. It's not easy. So the steps to creating a positive relationship. So maybe you're a step parent. Maybe you're a grandparent who hasn't seen kids in a while. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe your kids and you just have felt disconnected. So for whatever that task is, or you're helping another adult build a relationship with your kid, making sure that there's a good understanding of who they are at the core. So getting to know them. So understanding their preferences, understanding their likes, their dislikes, their interests, their background, their culture. Those are all really important because you will find something you connect with, or you can share new things and learn and experience things, or enhance things in their lives that maybe didn't get done. So I went online and I can always find cool stuff. So Teachers Who Pay Teachers is a website, and there's some free things on there. I can't share them with you guys, but I can put the link so you can go download and create an account on your own, and parents can have an account. 10 ways to build relationships with kids. So depending on what your role is, this might be useful, but it's a good reminder, or if you're going to be teaching somebody, or, I like visuals. It's pretty, it's cute. Whatever that is. Or you just need it in your little notebook to look at. So share about your own life. Remember things about their lives. That's really important. That's building relationships in general. So building relationships as an adult with other adults is very similar to what you're doing with a child. You just have to get down on their level and understand them, give them your time. So listening skills is not just verbal, right? And we're not just paying attention and using our ears, we're using our bodies. Like, we're there with them, we're present. This is really hard to do when we're busy as adults, and it's really hard, or I should say it's really easy to kind of tell your kids, like, I'll get back to you, I'll do this, you need to wait one more minute, and then 30 minutes later you still haven't stopped what you're doing. Every time I do like an inventory of things like this on myself, I just hate it, and it never feels good. And I'm like, God, I wish I'd done that differently. And I have to reset with my kids. So when I'm done here today, we are spending a whole day together, and doing things he likes. He wants to go on a bike ride. He wants to bake banana bread, and I'm gonna do everything I can to stay focused on him and positive. And if I'm focused on him, it's a lot easier for me not to get frustrated or upset if I don't have a goal in mind. If all I want to do is spend time and make it meaningful, it's really, I'm just feeding off of him and paying attention to him. And so sometimes you really just have to make that time. Not saying that you'd have all day every day to do that, but you need to set some time aside to where they are the focus. Life is hard and hectic and busy, and our schedules, especially with like COVID and not having childcares or schools, it's created a whole new set of challenges, and just kind of finding that balance is really important. Otherwise, we're going to lose some of that connection. You can always regain it though, so don't feel bad. So like, I have my child who's trying to get on, and he knows he's not supposed to right now, because that was our deal.
I'm not getting on.
Okay.
I was just going to hug you. Okay,
we can have a hug, and then remember, we're going to go have some fun. Just you and me, okay? Love you. So, it's not like there's a switch that flips for them either when they're feeling some of that disconnection. So a lot of those challenging behaviors come from feeling disconnected from you. They're already feeling, especially right now during the COVID-19, they're already feeling unease and disconnected and disjointed in life. And our lack of ability to focus, or just exhaustion trying to get them to learn the way we want them to learn, or, whatever that is, there's a lot of that. So sometimes we just need a reset, and all need to kind of find one another again, right? So during this research, I'd found an article, 8 tips for developing positive relationships. So this was making sure you feel fulfilled, happy, more supportive, more supported, and connected. So those are really strong things. Like, it's all about building true connection with one another. That's how a relationship is built. So you have to connect on a lot of different levels. So making sure that you have that understanding of um, preferences, backgrounds, remembering these things, being able to feed that back to them, doing things that you like together, finding common ground where you can build meaningful connection. Some of us are like polar opposites of our kids, right? And it is hard. And as they grow and they develop even more of their own interests and become very unique individuals, it can be hard and frustrating. And sometimes we worry about them. If you are like the mother hen type and you have a rebellious child who has no fear, like that creates a lot of conflict. So you have to find common ground and find ways to where they can respect your feelings too on that. But we all have to compromise a little bit and be respectful and understanding. And that happens by building a good relationship to where we're not feeling like we're constantly having to give negative feedback to one another. And that it takes time, it takes practice. How many of you have been in an adult relationship where that is challenging? So can you imagine when we're trying to teach a child how to do that? Like, we're human. It's okay. Please just keep trying. When something isn't working, evaluate why it's not working. So the next step is a lot of love. So kids need lots of it. They need lots and lots of positive affirmation and feeling good. So a lot of kids have negative histories to where that makes it challenging for them. So if you have one of those kiddos, for things that have happened, like, it's building trust. If they have that and you're noticing their behaviors, they're really struggling with other adults, making sure those adults understand your kid's story is going to be really important. You don't always have to give all of the details, but they need to understand who your kid is. And for better or worse, that's who they are. That's why they are. And we are the adults, and we have some control on how we respond and react. And the more information we have, the easier it is to make good decisions that way. Adults can make sure they embed opportunity throughout the day. So teachers, they need to do a lot of positive affirmations throughout the day. They're not going to be just like hugging on your kids all day long, right? Like, those are things we can do to make them feel confident and supported. But like, if you have a teacher who doesn't seem to have a very great positive culture in their classroom, like, that's important. And I know there's a lot of teachers out there that just love this stuff. So they might have a way, like a daily greeting. So not every kid wants a hug. Some kids want a high five or an elbow bump or some knucks or something like that. And they can pick what they want to greet their teacher with, which is really good. You can create that positive culture throughout the day. And then, ask them how they did on something, or know that you're going to work a little harder to affirm them and show them that whatever they did was accomplished and they did it well, or they tried really hard to do it. And that's amazing. They were persistent. They didn't give up. That's a huge thing. Kids often revert to like criticism and they can't do things right. And I was reading, and it makes sense, no matter how many times I try to be like, don't whine, because they feel that dread already. And so that's my child's response, is whining. I don't want to do that. It's no fun, because it's difficult for them. Even though I promote that positive affirmation for that, they're living in a world where they do a lot of wrong things. And so they're in trouble a lot for running through the house, or eating with his hands when he knows how to use his utensils, or being too rough with the dog, or running, in the parking lot when you need them to be there holding your hand, whatever that is. They get a lot of told that they're doing things wrong. So it makes me think about how I need to approach those moments. Again, probably won't always do it, 100% the way in my head it should go, but trying to reevaluate and take those moments to reflect on myself, it helps me stay a calmer parent. So I saw this really cool thing. So we've talked about like self-care and how you have to fill up your cup, and if your cup's not full, you can't give it. So kids don't always know how to do self-care, right? And they're looking to us to help build them up and build confidence and self-esteem. So I saw this analogy of a piggy bank. So you have to make deposits. So some of this is like that positive feedback that they need. If you're taking a withdrawal from them, you are giving them negative feedback. So whenever you do something with your child or another adult does, you evaluate, was that a deposit or was that a withdrawal? Some things are going to be withdrawals, but can you do that in a way where you're not really taking away any of the good stuff, right? So every kid's different and you're going to handle that based on your parenting style, but we definitely want more deposits than we want withdrawals. We want to keep filling. If we have a piggy bank and we're putting in these little coins, we want more positive going in and we want our piggy bank to be full, because if we take it out, all that's left is pulling at, the core, the structure of that piggy bank. So depositing is like things like we're playing with our child, we're sharing with them, we're having that meaningful connection, listening to them, praising them, hugging them, high-fiving them, just like positive affirmations. So it could be little like notes if you're in a classroom. If you're not going to be with your child all day, there's so many cool things about like little lunch notes. If your kids are older, you can text them little reminders that you're thinking about them. It's things that make us feel good when we get that. So of course they're going to feel that. A withdrawal would be like nagging, which I've done today, criticizing and demands. So how often do we do that? It is hard when your kids don't listen. It is hard when you feel like you've told them how to do something 500 times and they still don't do it the way they need to. It's hard not to feel like they're just ignoring you because they'd rather do other things. That's probably true. And it's hard not to feel that emotional response from that. It's hard not to just be an adult living in this world and lose your patience and just wish somebody would do what you need them to do, right? And that comes out. So figuring out how we do this. So I had heard a story the other day about a little boy asking his mom, "Why are you the grumpy mom?" And then I found a book about it too. Our kids do perceive us as grumpy when we're constantly nagging at them. And it's so hard because you just wish they would listen. And, sometimes we have limited time with them or so much time with them that it is exhausting to constantly have to tell them. So again, more work for us to try to restructure how we get them to do things. Again, not great at it because I was like, yeah, that's me too. I'm the grumpy mom too. It's hard. Some days I feel like I'm rocking the mom thing, and other days not so much. And that's life, right? I have to be okay with that. And I know my kid feels loved and supported by me, and that's because I'm constantly trying to make sure our relationship's good. I know it's going to be challenging because he's exactly like my husband. He has my husband's personality, and that is very opposite of mine. And as my husband and I have grown and matured, we've found lots of ways to respect one another and balance that. But I've heard stories about the way my husband was with his mom. And they just kind of butt heads because they are oppositional and disruptive and lack of positive feedback. So when we have kids that respond really well to us, and sometimes like if we're a caregiver outside of the parent role, it's just always easier if they like you and you have similar personalities or personalities that jive, right? Like there's just some kids that you're like, yeah, you and I, we see eye to eye. And some kids are just personality-wise people pleasers and some aren't. So when you have a child like mine who it seems like all adults, he likes to rise to the challenge, including his grandparents. And he's not a bad kid. He just is kind of exhausting because he's constantly challenging authority. He's constantly challenging information. He's constantly just challenging everything. And that to him, that's not what it is. It just comes out and feels like that to us. He's just trying to make sense of the world the way it is in his head, right? So remembering that is important. So when kids hit our hot buttons, some are really good at it and they enjoy it. Some just are really good at it because we have different personalities. It's really important to watch your emotional response. So in order to build a good relationship with them, if you're constantly having negative emotional responses, that's definitely going to feed negatively into your relationship. If you can look at that emotional response as a warning sign that says, hey, need to do something differently, we need to work on this connection piece, it's going to be better for you too. Again, I'm not always great at it, but when I do feel better. I'm less stressed. I'm less, just emotionally drained because I can redirect and control what I do with that emotion. When we let ourselves lose control of that, that's when we're just going to feel that. And sometimes I have to take those days and look back and, start the next day fresh. It doesn't always happen in the moment. So when kids are like that and they have those personality traits, they're often the ones that need positive relationships the most. So sometimes it's personality that causes those challenging behaviors. Sometimes it's trauma and other mental health disorders, sensory disorders, cognitive disorders, things like that. And they just view the world with a different lens for whatever reason. They just need a different approach, and they need more connection or connection in a different way. So building that positive relationship is going to look different with every kid because of their unique needs. And the more we understand that as an adult, we can help navigate that relationship building better. And when we're doing this, this helps kids learn how to build relationships themselves because it's a huge social skill, being able to make meaningful connections with our peers, right? And grown-ups. So if we can show them and guide them and stay patient, it's going to be better for them in the long run, not just with our individual relationships. It's just going to be better for them to be those healthy, productive, happy citizens as they grow. It's going to help them make healthy, not just positive relationships, but healthy relationships where they have, friends that you're okay with them having, and they're choosing partners that are healthy relationships. And those are good things that, we're setting the groundwork as, adults as they're young. And if you have an older kid and you're watching this, again, nothing you're doing is wrong. It's just we have to take a step back and see and adjust things where we can improve or help our kids with other adults. Because we all have just wonderfully unique, beautiful children, right? So every time I sit down with my friends and we share stories about our kids, like some of them are similar stories, but like you just sell it. As an outsider, you're always celebrating the uniqueness of their kids, and they're being able to laugh about it outside of the moment that it happened. And it's usually something, a challenging behavior or a big milestone moment or something. And it's frustrating as a parent, but then we're laughing about it later. So it can't all be bad, right? So we have to learn how to be humble and laugh about it and grow from it. And we can celebrate those uniquenesses in those children. So we need to be able to celebrate them in our own. And it's just always easier having outside perspective. So like I said at the beginning, making sure you have a good support team. And so your teachers need you in their corner too, to support them and support your kids. And you are the expert on your kids, and they're unique and wonderful and beautiful, but they also don't always behave the best, and it's not always the teacher's fault. And there's a lot of things we can do to help our teachers and support them. And I can't even imagine having a room full of 30 kids every year and trying to learn them. I remember how amazing my teachers were growing up, and I had like lifelong connections with several of them, and especially grade school, because you're just with those ones so much. But as you age up, there's always a few specific teachers that you're just drawn to, and that's important. You don't have to, have a strong connection with each one, but learning how to do that is amazing. And I can't even imagine not having that. So teachers are awesome. Like, seriously, I don't know how you have that calling. I can't imagine it. Like, me with my one is super stressful. And I know there's some emotional connection there because he's my own, which creates its own, it's very unique versus, a teacher and all of the kids. It's that relationship just has different constructs to it. But teachers, amazing. So let's support them as we're learning, and we know our kids can be challenging, recognizing that, and how do we help our kids and help their teachers make a good relationship. They don't have to see eye to eye. They don't have to think each other are the best humans on the planet, but they need to have a good, respectful relationship that's positive, and they can learn from one another. You want that teacher to be able to sit with their friends and talk about that kid and have a good laugh, even if they maybe had a frustrating year. Like, sometimes those kids are the ones that make those lasting impressions, and let's make them good impressions. They were challenging, but we can all grow from each other. And I think that's really important to embrace. And knowing that our kids are challenging and they're not perfect, but they are beautifully and wonderfully unique, and we need to find ways to meet those needs and help them grow. So I hope these helped you. I just typed in positive relationships in my search engine and found lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of great things, but they were all pretty similar. But they all had unique ideas based on your unique situation. So I'm not going to go through all those, but I will go and find those links again and connect them. So the Vanderbilt University has got a lot of stuff on. So they house the Center for the Social Emotional Foundations of Early Learning. Whew, that was a mouthful. And they have tons of stuff. So if you're a parent, you're a teacher, or a caregiver, there's lots of free resources in there and ways to connect and create learning opportunities. They have a whole section on like calm down techniques, and they have some social stories in there. And they also have this thing called the Book Nook, which I love. So most of what I have pulled is for like preschool and younger, but they have some for the grade school kids, but it's Book Nook, so it's a story. And they have like lessons around those books and things you can do, activities and things to enhance that lesson. So you can be a parent and still teach your kid the lesson without being in a classroom. It doesn't have to be super rigid. It gives you a really good outline on things you can try and do. And some of the books, there's like 6 pages of stuff that you could do, all very different. So lots of good tools for free to give you ideas. And it's a very broad range of social emotional learning. And that's all really important for kids to be able to have good relationships, if they can be regulated and work on those social emotional skills. So building relationships also enhances all of those social emotional skills. So if they are having troubles with that, or you are having troubles understanding it, the Center on the Social and Emotional Foundations of Early Learning has a lot of stuff. So I know it's silly, but teenagers are kind of relearning some of that. So even though it's for early childhood, it's still relevant. And I learned stuff from it for myself too. So reflection is always a positive tool. So I will post that link. I hope you guys have a great Friday. Again, please always comment, or you can DM me or anything if you have questions. I'm hoping that this library of information is helpful and useful to you. So I look forward to talking to you guys again. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend.